What if I told you that according to Buddha, you achieved enlightenment the moment you were born? I know what you're thinking. Peter, that's impossible. I can barely get through Monday mornings without caffeine, let alone claim I'm enlightened. Over the past months, as we've explored different Buddhist teachings, Buddha nature keeps appearing, and your comments have been piling up. If I'm already enlightened, why do I meditate every morning? This makes no sense. I still get angry at traffic. Are you saying all my spiritual seeking has been pointless? These are the exact same paradoxes that have captivated Buddhist scholars, challenged meditation masters, and sparked profound discussions for centuries. Because Buddha said something far more radical than we might expect, something that completely flips our understanding of the spiritual path on its head. Today, we're finally giving Buddha nature the deep dive it deserves. Welcome back to Buddha's Wisdom. I'm Peter, and Buddha nature has been the elephant in the room on this channel. We've mentioned it dozens of times, referenced it in our videos on Buddhist schools, brought it up when discussing enlightenment, alluded to it when exploring consciousness itself. Buddha nature, or Tathāgatagarbha in Sanskrit, represents one of Buddhism's most transformative concepts. This teaching shakes up everything you think you are and completely reframes what spiritual practice accomplishes. The Tathāgatagarbha Sutra puts it directly. All sentient beings possess the Tathāgatagarbha. It is eternal, unchanging, and pure. Think about that for a moment. Buddha wasn't saying you can become enlightened if you try hard enough. He was declaring you are enlightened right now as you listen to these words. Different schools have wrestled with this teaching for over 2,000 years. Some embrace it completely. Others approach it with caution. The reasons why reveal something profound about the nature of awakening itself. So today, we'll explore what Buddha actually taught, why this created fascinating debates, and most importantly, how recognizing your Buddha nature changes everything about your spiritual life. Because by the end, you'll understand why the real question becomes, how do I recognize what I already am? The story begins with one of Buddhism's most beautiful metaphors. Buddha described our true nature like a precious jewel, wrapped in dirty cloth, buried in garbage. The jewel itself remains absolutely perfect, untarnished, radiant. The dirt around it doesn't change the jewel's essential nature. It covers the brilliance, but cannot damage what lies beneath. This comes from the Tathāgatagarbha Sutra, where Buddha revealed something that would reshape Buddhist understanding forever. He taught that every sentient being possesses what he called Tathāgatagarbha, the womb of the Buddha, or Buddha embryo. This isn't potential for enlightenment. This is enlightenment itself, present and complete, waiting to be recognized. Buddha explained that this nature has three remarkable qualities. First, it's completely pure. No amount of negative karma, no years of bad habits can actually stain it. Second, it's unchanging. While your thoughts and emotions fluctuate constantly, this essence remains perfectly stable. Third, it's blissful by nature, meaning your deepest core radiates peace and contentment. The Nirvana Sutra adds another dimension. Buddha nature is the self, hidden by defilements, revealed by practice. Now you might wonder, Peter, if this is true, why don't I feel enlightened? Buddha's answer reveals his most revolutionary insight. We experience suffering not because we lack something, but because we don't recognize what we already possess. You're like a lion raised by sheep, who believes he's a sheep. Think about what this means. Every moment you spend feeling inadequate, every time you think you need fixing, every instance you believe you're fundamentally flawed, you're experiencing mistaken identity. and when this teaching hit the Buddhist world, it ignited debates that nearly split the tradition apart. Picture this: Buddhist masters who devoted their lives to the same teachings, suddenly facing off in debates that would reshape Buddhism forever. When Buddha nature teaching spread through the Buddhist world, it created divisions that echo to this day. The Theravada tradition approached it cautiously. They acknowledged the concept, but emphasized potential rather than actuality. For them, you have the seed of enlightenment, but it requires cultivation through practice to manifest. Their logic made sense. If everyone already possessed full enlightenment, why would Buddha spend 45 years teaching? Why establish monasteries? Why create detailed meditation instructions? The Mahayana schools embraced Buddha nature wholeheartedly. They saw it as foundational to their entire understanding. The Yogacara school spoke of Buddha nature unfolding in layers, like a lotus opening petal by petal. The Zen tradition took this furthest. They built their entire practice around directly pointing to Buddha nature. The 13th century Master Dogen taught, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. Master Huangbo put it even more directly: your true nature is no different from the Buddha. But here's where the story gets dramatic. A monk once asked his master, "How do I see my Buddha nature?" The master replied, "Have you heard the sound of the mountain stream?" The monk paused to listen. In that moment of pure awareness, enlightenment struck like lightning. The Tibetan schools wove together different perspectives, creating intricate visions of how Buddha nature manifests. Each school shaped their meditation around how they saw Buddha nature. These debates weren't academic. They shaped how millions practiced and still do today. Some worried that emphasizing inherent enlightenment might lead to spiritual complacency. Others argued that recognizing Buddha nature provides the confidence necessary for authentic development. Whether you emphasize potential or actuality, whether you focus on gradual development or sudden recognition, all traditions agree on one crucial point: understanding Buddha nature transforms how you relate to your spiritual path. Which brings us to the question that's been driving your comments. Here's the question that's been flooding our comments, the same one that stopped me in my tracks when I first encountered this teaching. If you're already enlightened, why meditate? If your nature is already perfect, why work on yourself? A Zen master once described two approaches to cleaning a mirror. The first says, "The mirror is dirty. I must polish it until it becomes clean." The second says, "The mirror is already perfectly reflective. I need to remove the dust, obscuring its natural clarity." Both involve the same action, wiping the mirror, but the understanding behind the action completely changes the experience. When you meditate believing you need to become enlightened, every moment of distraction feels like failure. Every arising thought becomes evidence of spiritual inadequacy. But when you meditate knowing your nature is already whole, distraction becomes information. You're not trying to achieve a special state. You're recognizing the awareness that's already present. Meditation doesn't become lazy. Recognizing your Buddha nature takes real skill and attention. It's like learning to see the sky instead of getting lost in clouds. The sky is always there, but recognizing it takes practice. Every time you notice you've been lost in thought and return to awareness, you're not fixing a mistake. You're exercising the capacity to recognize your true nature. Here's the beautiful paradox. The harder you chase enlightenment, the further it runs. But the moment you stop, there it is, sitting quietly, sipping tea. This is the moment when seeking stops and finding begins. When the Buddha you thought was out there reveals itself as the very awareness looking for Buddha. This understanding transforms everything. When you recognize your own inherent wholeness, you begin seeing it in others too. That person who cut you off in traffic, they have Buddha nature. Your annoying coworker, Buddha nature. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. It means you can respond to situations without taking them as personal attacks on your worth. Imagine chasing goals without that tight knot in your chest. No fear of failing. No need to prove anything. Success doesn't diminish or enhance your essential nature. That's the freedom we're talking about. This understanding changes your relationship with time itself. You stop living in some imagined future when you'll finally be enough. The present moment becomes sufficient because your Buddha nature exists only in the present moment. This isn't the laziness of giving up. It's the deep exhale of finally coming home to yourself. But even as we explore these implications, there remains something that must be tasted rather than described, experienced rather than understood. After exploring the teachings, the debates, as the practical implications, there remains something about Buddha nature that words cannot capture. Modern neuroscientists like Dr. Judson Brewer at Harvard study pure awareness, the baseline state of consciousness that remains present during meditation, during sleep, even during anesthesia. Some are beginning to wonder, maybe awareness isn't part of the mind. It might be what everything else rests on. But even sophisticated brain imaging cannot capture what Buddha nature actually feels like when recognized directly. This is why authentic spiritual traditions emphasize experience over explanation. Buddha used the metaphor of a finger pointing at the moon. The finger helps you locate the moon, but you must see the moon with your own eyes. Pause for a moment. Feel the awareness noticing these words. That's it. Closer than breath. Unchanging. Always present. Your Buddha nature exists more intimately than your thoughts, more present than your emotions. Yet it remains completely transparent. The more you search for your Buddha nature, the more it seems to recede. Yet the moment you stop searching, you realize it was never actually hidden. Can you find the awareness that's aware of your thoughts without becoming another thought? Can you recognize the you that observes experience without turning that recognition into another experience to grasp? These questions point toward something that cannot be answered with words. They can only be lived, explored, recognized directly. The awareness reading these words right now, what if it's the Buddha you've been searching for all along? Maybe the real mystery isn't finding Buddha nature, it's realizing it never left. What have you noticed about the awareness that's been present throughout this entire video? Share your insights in the comments. What questions does this raise about your own practice? If this exploration sparked your curiosity about consciousness and Buddhist wisdom, subscribe with notifications on. Until then, keep exploring the mystery of what you already are.